There's a fellow here waiting from Paris, France, and I don't want him to be on hold forever here, so I want to go to him right away. Nicholas, how's Paris, my friend?
Well, Paris is perfect. Well, here it's 1 a.m., but Paris is good, except for one thing. First of all, I'd like to say that it's an honor to finally be able to speak with you, and excuse me if my English is not perfect.
It's actually quite good, and thank you.
Thanks a lot. I'm calling you because, as you may know, there has been a presidential election last week, and the Socialist Party won due to massive rhetoric and demagogy. You can't believe all the news. I mean, I follow U.S. politics for a few years, and I see your country turning into France, literally. Mm-hmm. Now, let me tell you one thing.
Let me say this. We're turning into France without the baked goods.
Yeah, probably. But one important thing is that the biggest threat isn't the direct economic hit, but the inexorable death of the entrepreneurial spirit and sense of self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
I really feel that my country is dying, and I don't know what to do about it. The mass is so misinformed, bombarded by left medias, or maybe they just can't look at the problem in the eye. After all, I believe it's so much easier blaming the corporate world and claiming that we, the people, are entitled to receive help from the government. So I wanted to ask you, I mean, what do you think? To me, I really think that there is no hope in Europe. Now, you know, it's like a vicious circle. It drives itself. More and more people expect more. Once the government subsidizes them, there's no turning back. And I see that America's buying this idea little by little. They voted for Obama, and it was like praise, like the new Jesus came and he's going to save everyone. But what they don't know is, like, when I received my paycheck, first of all, I started working at 19 years old while continuing studying, and I graduated. I had my degree this year while on a full-time job, and it was very hard. And next year I start my company. But they take, you know, when you hire somebody in France, the employer has to prepare 70% of the salary to pay in taxes. It means if you receive 1,000 euros, your employers pay 700 to the state, which is so crazy because we all know that the retirement system will no longer exist once I will retire, because I'm 21 now. So I don't know. I'd like to get your point of view, and I didn't read your book yet. I read.
Well, let me tell you this. Part of the problem is many of the great philosophers explain to us what should be and what could be. Mm-hmm. But, of course, they don't explain what happens if we can't break out of a cycle like this. Alexis de Tocqueville, one of yours, genius, wonderful, wonderful man, tremendous thinker, he warns about all this. Frederick Bastiat, another one of yours, just a tremendous man. He warns about all this. And they talk about what happens when equality is perverted. And they talk about what happens when democracies start, throw the door wide open to the treasury. And they get into all this. Your question, though, is how do you get out of this?
Exactly.
Well, I'm going to tell you, and you're not going to like it. The system will have to collapse before it can be rebuilt. Can I tell you why? I'm going to tell you why. Because you have a democracy, little d, whether it's a parliamentary system or like our system, too many people have either been bought off or sold off in the system. They have access to the ballot box. They vote for people who will continue, if not, they believe, further improve their welfare state benefits. Mm-hmm. These people they vote for are continually lying to them about the cause of the problem, so they use class warfare and create straw men. Whether it happens here in America, whether it happens in France, it's the same verse, just in a different language. And it becomes more and more coercive, more and more destructive. And people leave their countries. In this country, they leave states. They try and find other states where, I mean, you can see how the big blue states are depopulating themselves here, the more socialist states in this country. This is why you see Florida with such a heavy population. No a state income tax. People are looking for ways to live in freedom and looking for ways to... Now, Milhouse, as he dabbles in foreign policy and scares the hell out of us, listen to this from the Telegraph of England. Barack Obama heads to Britain and Europe in 2 weeks' time as the leader of the first U.S. administration to wholeheartedly back the creation of a federal Europe. In contrast to earlier administrations, including those of George W. Bush and Bill Clinton, the Obama administration is avowedly Euro-federalist in outlook and is keen to help build a European Union defense identity as well as support the foundations of a European superstate in Brussels. This dangerous shift in U.S. policy is a betrayal of both U.S. and British interests that will threaten the long-term future of the Anglo-American special relationship, weaken the NATO alliance, and undermine the defense of British sovereignty in Europe. What's going on here is that the French and the Germans want to control Europe by treaty and by bureaucratic organization. The French and the Germans want to basically conquer Europe, and the British don't want to participate in that. And we have other allies that don't either. Ireland, Poland, the Czech Republic, and others. They want to resist this because that combination is far too powerful. And what will happen is Britain and some of these other countries will get lost. Their sovereignty will be lost, their traditions will be lost, so they're willing to go to some extent into this European Union, but they don't want to be gobbled up in it. And so Barack Obama apparently says, well, screw you, we favor that. Now, I find this outrageous. First of all, why do we favor this? Why do we favor building up these countries to compete against us? I mean, it's not exactly like the Germans have a great history of peace. That is, the German governments. They don't. And it's not exactly like the French have been the greatest allies. Oh, sure, this Sarkozy's pretty good, but he's the exception to the rule. So why would we want to build this up to compete against us? I mean, if Obama favors this, at a minimum, he ought to just stay the hell out of it. And yet, he wants to build them up to create a superpower of states in Europe to compete with us. Is that not bizarre? It's not bizarre if you don't really care about American sovereignty. It's not bizarre if you're a quote-unquote global citizen. It's not bizarre if you consider yourself a global citizen first and an American citizen second. You see the destruction of sovereign nation states as a good thing because you believe they're an accident of history in the first place. You believe America is an accident of history in the first place. And so the more you can globalize, the more you can socialize, the more you can centralize authority, the better if you're a statist and you're in power. Nothing better than a world that is one or close to one, if you're a statist, where you can impose your positions and your views internationally, not just parochially. This is the Obama mindset. This is why he will support wide open, quote-unquote, immigration reform, and this is why he will also support a federalized European Union, even though many of our allies reject it. He doesn't care.